LeEco? What was that all about? It was a company with the potential to be #1 in the world, and it nearly achieved that status. However, it suddenly collapsed. LeEco was like a bright flash akin to a meteor, a failed legend. These phrases aptly describe the company. Contrary to expectations, the history of LeEco is marked by disgrace. Within 2 years, the company transformed from an obscure Chinese startup into a mega successful corporation with imperial ambitions. Its reach, akin to greedy tentacles, quickly extended into various spheres of life, encompassing everything from online movie theaters and smart bicycles to cab services. But the giant fell victim to his own ambition and died shamefully, choking on a piece he couldn't swallow. This is the story of LeEco's downfall. LeEco's history is closely tied to its CEO Jia Yueting, an extraordinary and somewhat controversial figure. Jia hails from Shaanxi province, a region known for its coal mining industry. Yueting has always been driven by a desire for wealth and possessed a natural entrepreneurial spirit. After graduating from university with a degree in finance, he began working in tax inspection. Like many of his peers, he then joined a local coal mining company. A stable career as an office clerk, a company car, and a secure retirement seemed to be in his future. However, this conventional life was not what young Yueting aspired to. He didn't want to work for someone else. He aimed to start his own business, driven by his love for money above all else. In 2002, Yueting's dream materialized. He co-founded a small company named Shanxi Shi Bei Communications Technology with 2 partners, focusing on selling telecommunications equipment to state-owned enterprises. His exceptional business acumen led the company to become a supplier for China Telecom, the country's largest cellular operator, rapidly scaling up to millions of dollars in sales. That same year, Yueting encountered Liu Hong, a local journalist working for a prominent internet publication. Liu Hong was considering the idea of creating a streaming service. In 2004, these creative minds secured significant investment for the realization of their ideas and established Leshi Internet Information and Technology Corp. LeTV rapidly evolved into a counterpart of Hulu and Netflix. It acquired the Le.com domain and began streaming various types of content on its platform. At that time, copyright concerns were not a priority in China, allowing Jia and Liu Hong to stream pirated movies for free while generating revenue through advertisements. LeTV swiftly grew into one of China's largest media companies. Eventually, it moved away from pirated content, even acquiring rights to foreign movies. By 2005, LeTV had become one of the 5 companies certified by the People's Republic of China government. This certification enabled them to produce TV programs and series for local television. Meanwhile, Jia continued to manage his first venture, Shanxi Shi Bei Communications Technology. The revenue was abundant and flowed in a steady stream, marking a significant phase in our protagonist's journey. In 2011, LeTV established its own movie studio, LeVision Pictures. Following that, in 2014, it launched its Lemao store. The influx of capital and the opportunities it presented led Yueting to transition from an enthusiastic startup founder, eager to positively change the world, to a figure driven by greed. Within just 5 years, he transformed his business into a vast empire. The year 2015 was pivotal for the company. It was during this time that LeTV gained international recognition, partly due to its aggressive global advertising campaigns. By then, Jia Yueting had accumulated a personal fortune of $1.9 billion. The company produced excellent televisions at incredibly low prices. Yueting's entrepreneurial skills were undeniable. It's worth acknowledging his business acumen. LeTV's TVs were manufactured by Foxconn, which received a percentage of the sales. This meant that LeTV itself made minimal investment in production. The TV market generally presents a challenging environment for startups, dominated by a major player, Samsung. This company has maintained a significant market share for 15 years, often making it difficult for new entrants. Despite these challenges, LeTV's television sold impressively in China, with about 1.5 million units sold in 2014 alone. However, Jia aimed for more. Jia's ambition led him to the smartphone market, not just to offer hardware solutions, but to integrate various devices into a single ecosystem through his services. His driving force remained consistent: the pursuit of greater wealth, necessitating the expansion of his company. The company's first smartphones, the LeTV One, One Pro, and LeTV Max, were launched in April 2015 under the name Le Superphone. In a bid for transparency, LeTV was the first company globally to provide a detailed breakdown of all components and their costs for each smartphone model. The strategy was to demonstrate how other companies charged significantly more for similar features, hoping to sway consumers towards the Chinese brand. All three smartphones were among the first to feature the then-new USB Type-C connector. The LeTV 1 Pro and LeTV Max were powered by the Snapdragon 810 processor, while the more affordable LeTV 1 used the high-end MediaTek Helio X10. Initially announced for the Chinese market, the company soon revealed plans to officially enter the US market, signaling its global ambitions. The lineup attracted international attention due to its technical features and competitive pricing, despite the brand's relative obscurity and a somewhat misguided advertising strategy. Jia Yueting's launch of the smartphones began with controversial attacks on Apple. He likened Apple to Nazis, even posting an image of Hitler with an Apple logo, replacing the swastika on his armband. This comparison might have been more understandable if LeTV had already established a significant presence or reputation in the market. In contrast, Apple was a stronger brand, and such attacks seemed ill-conceived. To many, Jia Yueting appeared to be another Chinese entrepreneur selling a cheaper iPhone clone on Android. In China, this unconventional advertising campaign was positively received. Over 1 million Li superphones sold in the first 3 months, surpassing both Apple and Samsung in the domestic market. The marketing strategies resonated well with Chinese consumers, and the brand even began to be referred to as the iPhone killer. Throughout 2015, the company continued to release and develop its own services. Despite facing criticism from Apple, LeTV boldly emulated their approach by introducing LeMusic, a music service similar to Apple Music, but featuring a wide array of Chinese artists. They also launched LeSport, a sports broadcasting service. In November, LeTV released another smartphone, the LeTV S1, priced at $200. It was built on the MediaTek platform and competed with the Xiaomi Redmi Note 3, often surpassing it in various features, which led to robust sales. However, as smartphone sales increased, users began to notice some discrepancies, such as the frame thickness not matching the advertised specifications. The year 2016 was pivotal for the company, beginning with a significant rebranding. The company unveiled a new logo and changed its name from LeTV to LeEco, signaling that all its devices would now operate within a single, integrated ecosystem. This ecosystem was set to encompass much more than just smartphones and TVs. In addition, the company made its foray into the Indian market with the LeTV 1S smartphone. By this time, Le.com had amassed a monthly audience of 800 million users, a notable achievement considering that Netflix only reached the 200 million user mark in 2021. Despite this impressive user base, LeTV was not ranked among the top 5 video services in China. Jia Yueting continued to experiment with various business ventures, including selling cloud storage space and even launching a website for wine sales. The company was financially robust, with its market capitalization soaring beyond $12 billion, a substantial increase over the past 4 years. In April 2016, LeEco held a global presentation to showcase its new smartphones, the Li 2, Li 2 Pro, and Li Max 2, now under the new brand. These models featured a revolutionary decision to abandon the mini jack in favor of the Type-C connector. They also introduced their own high-res audio standard, offering sound quality comparable to FLAC, but with the file size of MP3. These devices were equipped with the Snapdragon 820 processor, Sony cameras, and metal bodies. Truly impressive offerings. Pre-orders began on the same day, with prices ranging from $170 to $390, offering incredible value. They also showcased a VR helmet and the 4th generation of ultra-thin 4K Super TVs. As a highlight, they unveiled the LeEco LeC, a concept for an unmanned electric car. This self-driving vehicle, equipped with autopilot, was designed to integrate into the ecosystem, with smartphones enabling remote control. It boasted a top speed of 210 kilometers per hour. Impressed by these innovations, investors decided to inject an additional $1.08 billion into the company immediately following the presentation. Later, Jia Yueting directed LeEco's funds into 2 electric car ventures, Lucid Motors and Faraday Future, even becoming the founder of Faraday Future. Both companies aim to rival Tesla, earning Yueting the nickname China's Elon Musk. In 2016, Faraday Future received a staggering $1.8 billion investment from LeEco. The plan was to build a manufacturing plant in the US with this funding. However, due to financial mismanagement, the funds were depleted and the plant project was abandoned. It raises the question of how nearly $2 billion could be so misappropriated. In addition to electric cars, LeEco was also engaged in VR content, e-commerce, and online finance. They even promised to create an electric bike. However, these ventures primarily served to attract investor funding. They consumed enormous amounts of money and time, yet viable products never materialized. The resources seemed to vanish irretrievably, akin to disappearing into a black hole. In March, LeEco unveiled its Le Superbike, which featured smart capabilities. Essentially, it was a regular bike but equipped with a small Android smartphone embedded in the handlebars, functioning as a tracker. It was reportedly sold for $800 in some markets, but it never achieved widespread success. June marked the beginning of LeEco's expansion into America. Rather than taking a cautious approach with preliminary research and networking, LeEco immediately purchased the former Yahoo office in California for a substantial sum of $250 million. However, this move resulted in losses rather than benefits. Following this, the Chinese company announced plans to acquire the American TV manufacturer Vizio for $2 billion and launched the EcoPass content subscription package. For a modest fee, American consumers received lifetime access to 10 GB of cloud storage, TV channels, and more. Yet, the EcoPass project only lasted about 10 months in beta testing before it was shut down. EcoPass was intended to be a key revenue stream in the US, as the company priced its TVs and smartphones at break-even points, hoping to build an audience that would generate long-term revenue through subscriptions. To grasp the extent of LeEco's unsuccessful expansion in the US, consider this fact. For the entirety of 2016, the company aimed to achieve sales of at least $100 million. In reality, its revenue in the States barely reached $15 million. The primary issue was a fundamental misunderstanding of the American market. LeEco attempted to sell its smartphones using the Chinese strategy of flash sales online, where batches of devices are sold at a discount for a limited time and quantity. However, this approach did not resonate with American consumers, who were hesitant to make purchases through a newly established Chinese company's website. Cultural differences in business practices also contributed to the failure in the US market. In many Chinese companies, local employees, regardless of their position, are overseen by a Chinese supervisor, and decisions are made by top managers in China. This was the case with LeEco. American employees who attempted to take initiative and suggest improvements were met with polite listening and nods from their Chinese counterparts, but no actual changes were implemented. This led to frustration and the departure of valuable professionals from LeEco.
Why are you running?
In August, LeEco acquired a controlling stake in Coolpad and jointly released the LeEco Cool One smartphone, powered by the Snapdragon 652. The LeEco Cool One was a highly competitive smartphone with few alternatives at its price point, offering better value. Coolpad, akin to a more affordable version of Foxconn, enabled LeEco to significantly reduce the assembly costs of its devices. The investment appeared promising, particularly for the long-term prospects, as owning shares in a large factory seemed a wise decision, expected to increase in value over time. However, contrary to expectations, Coolpad's shares declined after LeEco's purchase. The deal proved to be unprofitable, and in 2018, amidst a financial crisis, LeEco had to sell these securities at a lower price than their purchase value. The sole positive outcome from this deal was the LeEco Cool One itself. It was a well-balanced and appealing device offered at an excellent price, leaving a positive impression on many, including myself. September 2016 marked LeEco's entry into the Russian market, one of the most embarrassing yet intriguing episodes in the company's downfall. For this venture, the company launched a new division, LeRay. More than $1 million was spent on the advertising campaign in Russia. Victor Shu predicted that LeEco would sell at least 1 million smartphones in 2017. However, in just 3 months, only 20,000 devices were sold. On October 19th, LeEco officially held its presentation in the United States. At this press conference, LeEco showcased its smartphones, the Superbike, LeTV VR, and the LeC Pro supercar developed by Faraday Future to American audiences. The LeC Pro was even slated to be featured in the Transformers 5 movie. With footage from the set, featuring Michael Bay circulating online. However, like many of LeEco's plans, this too never materialized into a marketable product. Suddenly, in November, the company announced a financial shortfall. Jia Yueting, often referred to as China's Jobs Musk, wrote a letter to employees disclosing the company's monetary struggles. He promised to reduce his salary to just €1 in an effort to slow the company's decline and steer it back towards growth. However, this move seemed more like populism than a practical solution. Typically, a CEO's main source of income isn't a salary, but rather comes from company shares, various privileges, and other benefits. For example, Elon Musk's salary at Tesla last year was $0, but that doesn't stop him from being the richest man on the planet. That same month saw the release of the LeEco LeS3, powered by the Snapdragon 652. This launch left the public confused. The new model appeared strikingly similar to the LeEco Cool One, both in design and specifications, leading to questions about what exactly differentiated the two. In the future, the company would repeat this strategy, rebranding the Cool One under various names. A few days after the smartphone's release, news emerged about the halt in the construction of Faraday Future's plant in Nevada. The facility, which was intended to be equipped with state-of-the-art technology to rival Tesla, ended up misusing the funds. Even after this setback, investors injected another $1.4 billion into Faraday Future. You might wonder where this colossal sum went. Surprisingly, it was allocated to advertising and promoting the automaker's products that, in reality, never existed. In January 2017, Jia Yueting announced that the company's financial difficulties had been resolved, thanks to securing a major investor. Sunac China Holdings, a Chinese firm, invested more than $2 billion in exchange for shares in LeEco, marking the largest sale of securities in the company's history. Essentially, it was Sunac China that now held ownership of the brand. Also in January, the LeEco Cool Changer 1C was released, again powered by the Snapdragon 652. This time, consumers scrutinized the device. Searching for differences from the previous Cool Changer one, they found exactly two distinctions. The new model lacked the black frames around the screen and did not include an additional 2-megapixel camera. Yueting allocated most of the funds received from Sunac China not towards resolving LeEco's existing issues, but once again towards advertising the company. A significant amount was also spent in competition with major Chinese corporations such as Alibaba and Tencent. The remaining funds were used to pay suppliers for cell phone components and to cover licensing fees for broadcasting sports channels. Bloomberg noted that a portion of the money was allocated to bolster Faraday Future's standing. However, within 2 months, this project was shut down, and the production of new electric cars was halted. It wasn't until mid-spring, specifically April 2017, when LeEco's collapse seemed inevitable, that Yueting began to organize the company's transactions. As of April 1st, 2017, LeEco's accounts receivable totaled approximately $1.4 billion. A figure which marked the company's downfall. In April 2017, it was announced that the $2 billion deal with Vizio had failed due to regulatory opposition. The reality was that LeEco simply lacked the funds to complete the transaction. The company had to withdraw from the US market, but due to cultural reasons, this retreat was not openly acknowledged by the Chinese management. Surprisingly, even after LeEco's evident failure, local top managers continued to project an image of stability and made grandiose promises. In April 2017, LeEco released the LePro 3 AI Edition, a smartphone equipped with 2 cameras, one color and one monochrome. This smartphone could select optimal shooting settings and enhance picture quality. In May 2017, the company laid off 70% of its workforce at the US office in California. They sold the office building and the land, eventually leasing a quarter of the office space from the new property owner. Jia Yueting stepped down as CEO of LeEco but remained on the board and retained the position of chairman, albeit not for long. At the end of June 2017, a Chinese court seized the property of Jia Yueting due to debts. It was revealed that LeEco had failed to make interest payments on loans from Chinese banks. In July, a Shanghai court ordered the freezing of all assets belonging to Jia Yueting, his wife, and 3 associates. While there is no direct evidence of Jia Yueting and his associates embezzling funds from LeEco, the severity of corruption penalties in China is well known. Government corruption can lead to the death penalty, and in private companies, it can result in a life sentence. Therefore, no one would readily admit to participating in, much less orchestrating, a corruption scheme, although corruption at LeEco is evident. The specifics of its nature and extent remain unclear. LeEco was also known for buying media articles, paying off bloggers, and hosting extravagant presentations, seemingly operating with unlimited funds. In reality, the company was backed by numerous Chinese investors and even resorted to a Ponzi scheme to raise funds. This involved using new investors' money to pay off older investors, a classic pyramid scheme tactic. The management shuffled funds between various legal entities, of which there were dozens, to obscure financial losses. In 2015, when Yueting decided to venture into the smartphone business, he secured a loan, using LeEco's assets and 85% of his own stake in the company as collateral. While a portion of the loan was invested in business development, a significant amount was diverted for personal use, a strategy often employed for tax evasion. By the time the bank sought to reclaim the debt, Yueting's fortune was estimated at $3.6 billion. The freeze of $183 million did not concern him, nor did the potential loss of his stake in LeEco, as he had already extracted substantial funds from the company. His only fear was facing justice. A few days after the court's decision, Jia Yueting stepped down as chairman of the board, but remained the principal shareholder. He then relocated to California, ostensibly to work on the Faraday Future project. On August 1st, 2017, LeEco shut down its branded store in Moscow. Shortly thereafter, Jia Yueting resigned as CEO of Leshi Internet Information and Technology Holding, effectively exiting LeEco. Also in August, a new smartphone for the international market was released, the LePro 3 Elite. However, this second attempt to penetrate the market also ended in failure. Following this, the company faded from media visibility, effectively disappearing from the public eye. Yet, the process of disintegration continued for some time. Banks methodically dismantled the company, division by division, over the next 4 years. In July 2020, LeEco, or what remained of it, was delisted from the stock exchange as its share value plummeted to 0.18 yuan each. Throughout its existence, the company produced only 13 smartphone models. Despite the immense hype surrounding them, which at one point suggested they might overshadow Xiaomi, this never materialized. Remarkably, LeTV is still operational today, accessible via le.com. It has transformed into a significant news portal that highlights the achievements of the party. The site also features local serials celebrating the romance between workers and peasants, promoting patriotism and the love of labor. The Le Mall store continues to thrive as well. Under the LeTV brand, a variety of products including smart door locks, electric stoves, headphones, smartwatches, and an extensive range of televisions are offered. The brand now operates modestly, having abandoned its ambitions for global expansion. Despite Jia Yueting's aggressive competition, Apple remains robust, contrary to his predictions of its demise. Faraday Future, the company to which Jia Yueting fled, has not yet declared bankruptcy. Despite LeEco's collapse, China's semi-Elon Musk managed to attract significant investors from China. However, in practice, Faraday Future has produced nothing but attractive concepts and YouTube videos. They were expected to unveil their first production electric car, but this never occurred. Jia Yueting holds multiple roles in the company as founder, partner, director of product and user ecosystems. He uses the company primarily to meet his financial needs and recently declared personal bankruptcy to settle old debts with Faraday Future's assets. Jia Yueting has amassed a colossal fortune and is exploiting legal loopholes to evade paying his debts. Currently, he resides in a vast mansion in California. Despite his financial dealings, there has been no criminal prosecution against him. However, he has not returned to China.